Hello. Welcome back to episode 2. Now, I did talk about that the next episode was going to be the remodeling, but I forgot the closing. So, on the first episode, I said, stick around for the next one for the remodel, and we're going to get there. But this is about the closing. The closing was unique, almost as unique as the house. So, when I bought the house, I did not know who I was buying it from. Like most people, you have a name that's on a contract, but that's all you really have. Now, being I am who I am, I got on the Google machine and I started looking up the owner of the current house, the house that, and what I make this clear, we do not live there right now. We sold it in January 2025. But in this series, when I talk about our house and the house, I'm talking about the haunted house, not the current house that I'm in now. So when I closed, before I closed on that house, this house, from the moment we walked through it, from the offer to the closing and everything that happened in between was unique. Like it was weird. I've bought multiple houses in my lifetime. This was unlike anything else. The house was full of stuff. And I knew that somebody had probably passed away and it had been left in a will to somebody else. And I was right. It was. And the stuff in the house conveyed with the house. And let me tell you something. Much to my shock, when this stuff started ending up on Marketplace. And my sister, she started seeing this. She's the one that saw it first. And she's like, hey, Ashley, isn't this in your new house? And I was like, huh. Which, per the contract, everything that was in the house was supposed to convey. So just during that like 35 day period between the time I made the offer to the time I closed and actually met the seller, I was like getting really suspicious of these people because I was like, they convey it. They ask me if I want it. I agree. I'm like, just leave what's in there. I'll handle it. I'm thinking, I like to sell things. I'll just sell it, make some extra money off of it if we don't need it. And then all of a sudden, this stuff is ending up on Marketplace. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, these are fighting words, okay? Contract's a contract. I worked for the court system. A contract's a contract. And so I reach out to my realtor and I was like, hey, what is going on? So she's like, let me research. I will find it. And she went and she started looking things up. Well, turns out the seller was elderly, an older lady, and she was unaware completely of that everything in the house was to convey. The moment I asked her about it, it was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And it came off Marketplace. And I was like, okay, still weird. So the closing, I went to the closing alone because this was going to be in my name. Because my husband had a mortgage in his name. I had just sold my house, so I had no mortgage in my name anymore. So I was the only one on the contract. So I went to the house closing and I got to meet the seller, who was the original owner's sister. The moment I met her, I knew she was something special. She had this wholesome, warm vibe and energy about her. She hugged me. She held my hands. And she was like, I've been waiting for you. Y'all, I'm not touchy-feely, okay? I don't like being touched. I don't like being like pet on. I don't like being hugged. Like I can be fairly prickly with people that I don't know. Hell, prickly with people I do know. But like super standoffish with people that I don't know, especially when they start touching me, I tense up. So when she grabbed my hands, it was like that initial like, but something about her was familiar. And so I just let her hold my hands and she just kept saying, I was waiting for you. You were the one that was meant to have this house. I'm not exaggerating when I say that that is what this woman said to me. She would text me on a regular basis. This house was her brother's and her mother's, and this was the last little bit that she had of them. And she was very attached to it. And through that, she became very attached to me. And when I ended up selling it, which is a story for a later day, I knew she was going to be really disappointed, which she was. But after I bought the house and during the closing, she was telling me all these things. And her son was there and her son was telling me all these things. Like, but what they didn't tell me was specifically kind of what happened in the house. We'll get there. But they were telling me about her brother. And I found out that he was Mr. Universe and that he worked out a lot and he trained beauty queens in the basement. Now, when we looked at this house initially, what I didn't say in episode 1 was that the house was full of stuff. I did say that, but I didn't tell you what. One of the things, and if you've listened to the pod, you've heard it, there were mirrors. Mirrors everywhere. This is before my spiritual journey really started. So I was creeped out because I was like, was this like a happy salon? You know what I mean? Like, what is going on in this basement? And I found out later that it was a gym. And if you think about Gold's Gym or Planet Fitness, there's mirrors everywhere. And so once I found that out, I was like, okay, all right, clock it, I guess. Oh, good for him. But he was Mr. Universe, and he was Mr. Universe in the 80s, and he started training beauty queens in the basement. And that's why there was a tanning bed, and that's where there was a sauna. And there were fans kind of like set up like old school aerobic fans, you know, the ones that hang on the wall and like blow air while the lady stands. And so, yeah, it made sense. And so the more I talked to her and her son, and the more they told me about him, the more I learned. And they told me about how this house was all he had. Her brother was unmarried and he lived with his mom, and they lived in that house, and they essentially lived together their whole lives, the mom and the son. And this was their home. And this was their home from the 90s, the late 90s, because the house wasn't like 1800s. This house was built in the late 1990s. Like, it started being built in 98 and was done in 99. So it wasn't like this home was traditionally what you think was a haunted house. This was, people are like, what happened? Where are all the ghosts from nowadays? They're around, trust me. So after closing, when I left closing, I was like, that was weird. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But she did tell me, hey, I left some furniture in the house, and I knew she did. They had asked me if it was okay if they left some of the other stuff, kind of like the trash, and I knew she was coming from a different state to try to clean the house out. And so I told her, just leave everything. And she did. And what I found was quite interesting. Until the next episode, I'll see you later.